As the laughter from the gala spilled into their moment, Caden's resolve hardened. This connection, fragile yet powerful, was one he would defend at all costs. Emboldened, he cradled her face in his hands, thumb gently stroking her cheek, his heart a relentless drum. The world around them faded, the colors bleeding into a blur, leaving only the two of them in crystalline focus. He leaned in, his lips brushing against hers, tentative but urgent, as if sealing a lifelong promise. At first, it was a soft, lingering touch, a fragile exploration of warmth and connection. Then it deepened, an unraveling of years spent guarding their hearts, a collision of desire and resolve folding them into one another. The kiss tasted of hope, healing, and an unyielding vow made with every beat of his heart. When their lips finally parted, Caden hovered just a breath away, eyes locked with a fierce intensity. "No one can take that vow from us, Nova. No one," he whispered, anchoring her gaze as if there were truths beneath the surface, both still to uncover. Nova's breath was short but steady, her cheeks flushed, and the world beyond them, chaotic, dangerous, took an exquisite pause in that moment. The gala continued its dance of bright lights and masked faces, but here, entwined in each other's gaze, they stood resilient against whatever storm might come. Scene 22. Mysterious Connections. The night air thrummed with an unsettling energy, a tempest palpable in the distant booming of thunder. Nova LeClaire stood at the edge of the gala's grand balcony, the opulent cityscape sprawling beneath her like a deceptive dream. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, illuminating the elegance around her, yet the unease she felt twisted in her gut, heavier than the scent of rain-soaked earth mingling with floral arrangements. "Still hiding in the shadows, are we?" Caden Onyx's voice sliced through the commotion, grounding her. His silhouette emerged at the entrance, framed by the soft glow of the ballroom. His confident stride spoke of authority, but his eyes, those deep pools, were shadowed with anxiety. "Maybe I'm better off here," Nova replied, her voice steely despite the flutter of her heart. "You didn't tell me about Marina's debts, Caden. You knew, and you let me jump in without a clue." Caden's brow furrowed, tension coiling between them like thunder in the approaching storm. "I wanted to protect you. This isn't just about the gala. It's a gateway into something far darker." "Protect me?" she scoffed, crossing her arms defensively. "By keeping me in the dark? How does that help?" "Not everything needs to be shared, Nova." Caden stepped closer, ignoring the swirl of patrons waltzing inside. "Especially when it can endanger you." "Oh, please," she hissed, her fists tightening. "You think I'm some fragile flower?" The temperature dropped, her breath forming a mist in the brisk air. "I'm not my sister, Caden. I want the truth." His gaze intensified, revealing the barely concealed fraught despair lurking beneath his bravado. "The truth can be a double-edged sword," he said, voice low, almost trembling. "It might cut deeper than you're prepared to handle." "Just like your secrets do?" She shot back, the bitterness tasting metallic on her tongue. For every accusation flung, feelings of jealousy were woven into the fabric of their argument, unraveling the promise of their budding romance. Caden recoiled slightly, but did not retreat. "You think you're strong enough to take on a criminal syndicate because you found a dangerous thrill in a borrowed dress? This is real, Nova. Lives are on the line. And mine isn't?" The surge of indignation surged through her, ignited by his iteration of her identity and choices. "Or are you afraid I'll crumble without your protective shadow over me?" Caught in the storm of her rage, Caden shifted, struggling to maintain his cool. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. The deeper we get into this, the harder it'll be to separate yourself from its consequences." "Then share what you know," she demanded, voice rising, drawing the attention of nearby guests. "Stop pulling me along like some disillusioned pawn and let me see what lies behind the curtain." In an instant, his expression softened, vulnerability breaking through the steely resolve. "Nova, he hesitated, heart and mind colliding in a turbulent dance, the pain of his own secret weighing heavily. He inhaled sharply, forcing words out. "I want to protect you, but I can't do it alone. You've got to trust me." The air thickened with tension, her emerald eyes glistening as the first drops of rain began to fall, mingling with the ache of unresolved emotions. "Trust? You mean like how you trusted me with your heart, or was that just an illusion too?" Caden stepped closer, closing the distance, the rhythm of the rain echoing the pulse thrumming between them. I've never allowed anyone to see what's beneath the surface. She felt the warmth radiating from him, the magnetic pull, but the fight within her raged on. Then maybe we stand a chance together, Caden. But you have to let me in, or else, what's the point? The downpour unleashed itself, drenching the landscape, blurring the lines of their world as he leaned closer, fingers brushing against hers, a tantalizing promise amid the turmoil. We'll face it together, he murmured, vulnerability glimmering in his gaze, drenched in rain and emotion. Together, she whispered, resolving to break through their barriers, determined to unearth the truth, even as the very storm mirrored their inner chaos. Scene 23. Under the moonlight. The grand expanse of the estate shimmered under the soft glow of the moonlight, illuminating the elegantly manicured gardens that surrounded them. A symphony of crickets filled the air, their melody swirling around Caden and Nova like a gentle embrace as they found refuge on a secluded terrace. Shadows danced in the light, flickering just as their emotions threatened to take form. Do you believe in fate? Nova's voice broke the serene night, laced with curiosity. She leaned against the railing, her silhouette framed by the silver light, revealing the delicate curve of her neck and the earnestness in her eyes. Caden paused, his brow furrowed. He shifted closer, drawn in by her question and the warmth of her presence. Fate, it's a tricky notion. He chuckled lightly, the sound like a distant echo. It's hard when you're not sure what it's leading you toward. Then where do you think it leads us? Nova countered, her gaze searching his with intensity. The tension crackled between them, electric yet tentative, as the truth lay heavy on both of their hearts, unspoken and clawing to be released. I like to think it leads to moments like this, Caden said softly, his shoulders relaxing just enough to let his guard down, if only for a heartbeat. But somehow, he trailed off, his eyes reflecting the moonlight, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his confident exterior. I just can't shake the feeling that I'm not worthy of it. Nova's heart tightened at his confession. Worthy? She edged closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Caden, you're... The weight of her reticence hung thick in the air, punctuated by the chirping crickets, urging her to continue. You're everything. But if you feel this way, why not just say it? Because sometimes the truth is what I fear the most. What if I'm just a shadow of the man I want to be? Caden hesitated, raking a hand through his dark curls. He took a deep breath, the crisp night air filling his lungs, carrying away fragments of his defenses. I've kept secrets, things that could change everything between us. Secrets? Nova echoed, a mix of anxiety and intrigue flooding her senses. She could not help but feel the touch of fate, intertwining their lives like the spiraling tendrils of ivy climbing the estate's stone walls. The moonlight illuminated Caden's face, and for the first time, Nova saw the depth of his turmoil, the swirling shadows of his past that had long since been hidden beneath layers of charm and bravado. I have a son, Nova, he admitted, his voice raw yet steady. He's with his mother, and I've never told anyone, not even my family. A silence fell, heavy and laden. Nova's mind raced. A son? Caden, how could you? I know, Caden replied, frustration lacing his words, cutting through the heavy air. It's complicated. You don't understand the layers of this. I've protected him by keeping him secret. I thought I was doing the right thing. Protecting him? Nova's heart swirled in turmoil. Or protecting yourself? The truth stung like the cool night air against her skin. Caden cast his gaze to the ground, and when he spoke again, his voice lowered, full of sorrow. I could lose everything more than just a child. Love is dangerous, Nova. It can tear you apart if you're not careful. His confession hung there, tinged with regret. Nova's chest heaved as she stepped closer, daring to bridge the distance between them. She reached for his face, guiding him to meet her gaze. But love can also be a strength. You don't have to face it alone. Your past doesn't define you. It's how you move forward that matters. Caden closed his eyes, surrendering to the warmth of her touch as if she were a balm for all his unspoken fears. I'm terrified, Nova. Terrified of losing you if I let you in. Terrified of the darkness. Then let's face it together, she whispered, their words mingling in the cool night. I want to understand you, not just the parts that glimmer in the light. Let me in, Caden. Let me see all of you. as the moon filtered through the thick branches above them, illuminating their entwined shadows on the terrace floor. A silent promise pulsed between them. Caden leaned in closer, breathless, the palpable weight of his truth merging with an intoxicating hope, one step closer to uncovering the depths of their shared destiny. Together, he murmured, barely breaking the space between them, the night holding its breath around them. Scene 24. Suspicious allies. The echo of laughter danced through the air, vibrant and deceptive, as Caden Onyx stepped into the grand ballroom of the Eldridge, the evening's gala shimmering with elegance. Crystal chandeliers dripped with light, illuminating the faces of the elite, drifting between the tables adorned with fresh blossoms and delicacies. Yet for Caden, the brilliance felt suffocating. His heart hammered beneath his tailored jacket like a caged animal, a steady reminder of the weight he carried. The secrets he harbored were festering between him and the woman who had unintentionally swept into his life, Nova Leclerc, masquerading now as her twin sister. "Are you even listening?" The voice sliced through his reflections. He turned to find Leela, Nova's identical sister, and the architect of this charade standing with arms crossed, her emerald dress hugging her curves. "You can't just zone out like that. We're in deep," she emphasized, scanning the crowd. Caden's jaw tightened. "I'm aware, Lila, it's just—" His voice trailed off, their eyes locking, and he succumbed to the vulnerability that flickered in him momentarily. "I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched." Lila sighed, unfolding her arms. "We need allies. Whether you trust them or not, they're all we have. Look." Her gesture directed his attention to a group on the periphery, an attractive cluster of faces, each expelling nonchalant charisma. They were the Tomorrow Syndicate's supposed reinforcements, offering assistance, but with facades that suggested hidden motives. "Fierce loyalty, they say," Caden murmured, skepticism dripping from his words. "Can loyalty come wrapped in knives?" "Or gifts," Lila replied, her voice low and thoughtful. "We get them on our side, and we might stand a chance against whatever's coming." Her brow furrowed. "You're the one who keeps saying we play this smart." "Smart or not, I can't ignore the risk. It just doesn't add up," he replied as he focused on the cluster of allies, each one too polished, too pristine, a mirage promising to quench a thirst for safety. Caden's ire was interrupted when Nova glided into view, her presence kicking the tension up a notch. Her blue gown twinkled under the overhead lights, a stark contrast to his own dark attire. Her eyes sparkled as they met his, and Caden felt the air thrum between them, a taut wire ready to snap. "Lost in thought?" she asked, a teasing smile gracing her lips, though apprehension lingered in her gaze. "Just contemplating options, or more accurately, betrayals," he admitted. The room wobbled like a dream, the laughter ringing hollow as he spoke. "Betrayal, a heavy word," she murmured, stepping closer, lowering her voice. "Is it what you think of me?" "Not you, Nova." He steadied himself, crossing the threshold from skepticism into an uneasy honesty that teetered on the edge of reckless. "But it's easy to mistake allies for enemies." With a smirk, Nova moved even closer, the closeness casting a spell over them. "What if the enemies we think we have are really friends in disguise?" Caden finished, his lips twitching upward, drawn to the warmth radiating from her. She caught his gaze, flickering warmth becoming electric. "Something like that." In the gentle pulse of the crowd, it felt as if the world narrowed, drawing them together, breathing in the moment that hardly seemed to belong to either of them. Caden reached out, brushing a stray curl behind her ear, a swift yet tender gesture. "Nova," he started, but the weight of their tumultuous entanglements hung thick, swirling around them. The exhilaration in her eyes was mingled with uncertainty. A faint tremor touched her voice. "I'm scared, Caden. I'm scared of things left unsaid, of nights drenched in darkness, of losing herself or perhaps losing him to this dangerous dance they played in." Before she could finish, he leaned in, closing the distance. It wasn't just their lips that met. It was shared fears, whispered hopes, and the throbbing awareness of the stakes stitched into their existence. The kiss was hesitant at first, lacking the fervor they both craved, but it deepened as they melted into each other. The world falling away, the risk, the secrets, the laughter, all muffled into an incomprehensible hush. The kiss tasted of longing and the fleeting promise of what could be. Time suspended, dancing delicately around them before the distant sounds of their reality sliced through. Breaking away, breathless, Caden's eyes found hers, sifting through the soft aftershocks of intimacy. "We have to be careful," he warned, but admiration glimmered in his voice. "Believe me, I know," she replied softly, her pulse racing with the realization of the dangerous game they now played. Their moment remained suspended, a cauldron of emotions, as the laughter in the ballroom began to roar back to life, a reminder that the dance of allies and enemies had only just begun. Scene 25. Eclipsed Trust. Caden Onyx leaned against the cool marble of the grand hall, the elegant chandelier casting flickering shadows across his face as laughter erupted around him, drowning the tension swelling in his chest. The elite gala shimmered with opulence velvet dresses swirled like dark storm clouds, wine glasses clinked like hurried heartbeats, and the air was thick with the scent of polished wood, refined perfumes, and an undercurrent of something conspiratorial. Here, where wealth and secrecy wove an intricate tapestry, Caden felt a familiar weight. His thoughts drifted to Nova Leclaire, who shone brighter than the chandeliers above, an unexpected revelation of vibrant colors in a world that often felt monochromatic to him. She was captivating, passionate, a force of nature wrapped in soft elegance. Yet, the shadow of their burgeoning connection loomed. He couldn't escape the tight coil of anxiety in his gut, a feeling only amplified by the knowledge of his past, his son with another woman, one whose loyalty was now in question. "Lost in thought, Caden," came the smooth voice of Mira, Caden's childhood friend. Her presence was like a bright flame, but her eyes held a flicker of mischief mixed with concern. Dressed in a stunning emerald gown that accentuated her figure, she was undeniable, but also a mirror reflecting the complexities between loyalty and desire. "I could say the same for you," Caden replied, an attempt at levity faltering in the depth of his being. "What brings you here, if not plotting more mischief?" "Why, Caden?" Mira teased, the edges of her lips curling into a playful smirk. "I'm wounded. Can't I simply enjoy the company of friends?" Her expression shifted, revealing a sliver of vulnerability. "Or are you worried I might detract your attention from the queen of the night?" "I'm not worried about that," he said, the conviction almost a lie. His gaze shifted across the room to find Nova, her laughter mingling with a group of bright-eyed elites. There was a lightness about her, a recklessness in admiring her own reflection in the prestigious social sphere, dangerously unaware of the trials ahead. Mira nudged him lightly, breaking into his reverie. "You're a protective big brother now?" "Something like that," Caden muttered, but he could feel the tightness in his chest stretch further. There it was again, the weight of his secret, the bond he shared with another woman, shrouded in past choices. "What do you really think of her, Mira?" "Nova? She's extraordinary," Mira replied, her tone unexpectedly serious, the veneer of humor slipping away. "But you've known her for what, a week? You've always fallen too quickly. Is that your truth?" Caden turned fully to her, irritation flaring despite pulling tightly at his composure. "It's not about how quickly I've fallen. You know my history. This isn't just about romance for me." Mira stepped closer, lowering her voice as if they were scheming against the very room that surrounded them. "You'd risk it all for her? What about the boy? The life you've built behind closed doors?" A flash of anger coursed through him. The walls of his carefully constructed world threatened to collapse. "Don't, Mira. You don't know what I've been through." "I do," she hissed, her eyes shimmering with the intensity of past nights spent whispering dreams beneath the stars. "You're not the only one carrying burdens, but if you fall for Nova, then you open the door, Caden. You risk everything." At that moment, space between them felt electric, charged with an unspoken acknowledgement of weakness in their shared pasts. Caden's heart raced, the truth of her words crashing over him like tidal waves. "I have to find a way to protect everyone," he said quietly, his voice steady as he wrestled with the fragility of their bond. "Then let me help," she urged, her words unwavering. "You can't do this alone." But Caden's gaze sharpened. "What if your version of help comes at a price I can't afford? Can I trust you to remain loyal in the face of what's coming?" Mira's glance penetrated him, a shiver of honesty as she whispered, "Trust is the most sacred currency in our world, Caden. Honor it before it's stolen away." The tension in the air thickened, reflective of the chaos that loomed on the horizon. He felt the magnetism of the moment, a reluctant dance toward vulnerability that nearly shattered his resolve. As Caden tried to piece together his next words, a commotion erupted across the hall, drawing both their attention. "What now?" Mira muttered, her voice tense. Breaking free from their cocoon of uncertainty, Caden felt the threat coil back around him, propelling him into the fray. Before he could completely disentangle from Mira's grip, he locked his gaze on Nova once more, her eyes wide, darting toward the impending chaos yet jingling with an infectious spirit, unaware of the danger lurking in shadows. "I'll protect her," Caden said, the promise throbbing in his core, "even if it kills me." Scene 26, a tangled romance. As the gala swirled around them, the distant clink of crystal and the hushed laughter of elite patrons floated through the air. Nova stood at the edge of the ornate ballroom, the plush crimson carpet beneath her feet, plush and warm, a stark contrast to the cold knot of tension tightening in her gut. Caden was across the room, deep in conversation with another guest, his relaxed demeanor masking the storm brewing behind his dark eyes. "What do you mean you haven't told him yet?" said Celine, Nova's twin sister, appearing suddenly at her side, one eyebrow arched. "Celine, it's complicated," Nova replied. Her voice was low, almost swallowed by the ambient buzz of polite chatter. The aroma of roasted duck and candied fruits wafted toward them, momentarily distracting her. "Complicated? You're assuming his identity and falling for him," Celine shot back, her voice firm yet imbued with a hint of concern. "This isn't some teenage crush, Nova. You need to set things straight before he finds out." "I know," Nova replied, her voice barely above a whisper. A pause hung thick in the air, heavy with unsaid truths. She could feel the weight of familial expectations pressing down upon her, tinging the festive atmosphere with an underlying anxiety. "I'm scared, all right? Every time we're together, I feel alive. But what if he finds out who I really am? Then you need to be honest with him. This deception isn't just a game, it's someone's heart." Celine's tone softened, her protective instincts surfacing. Nova turned to watch Caden as he laughed lightly at something the other guest had said. It was a melodic sound, one that sent shivers down her spine, awakening feelings she didn't know she could possess. "But I need this chance," Nova said, whispering now, "to be someone else, to escape, to feel free." "Freedom masquerading as deception will only choke you in the end," Celine warned gently, her expression shifting from scolding to sympathetic. "You must face him, or you'll lose more than just his trust." As Celine drifted away, Nova felt the pull of desire mixed with fear. The room blurred around her, and she drew in a breath, the scent of bergamot and fresh blooms now a reminder of her conflicting emotions. The realization struck hard. Was she not just consuming Caden's affection, but also his sense of truth? Caden caught her gaze from across the room, and the world shrank to just the two of them. He made his way through the crowd, his tall frame exuding a confident grace that made her heart race as he approached. The music dulled, becoming a mere thrum, as if to emphasize the charged silence between them. "Nova," he said, his voice deep and warm, radiating familiarity. The way he said her name sent a thrill through her, both exhilarating and terrifying. "Caden," she replied, the name hanging between them, heavy with unspoken words. "I was just talking with Mr. Barrow about the latest financial developments. He seemed more interested in playing cards, if I'm being honest." Caden chuckled, but the mirth in his eyes dimmed slightly as he continued. "You seem miles away." "I've been thinking," she started, her heart beating a frantic rhythm. The silence that followed felt electric as she searched his dark eyes, looking for any sign that he might sense the lie resting on her tongue. "About us." His brow furrowed, a mix of confusion and intrigue painting his expression. "Us? What about us? Isn't it all a bit tangled?" she breathed, stepping closer, staring, the warmth of his body contrasting sharply with the cool air swirling between them. Caden's lips tightened, his gaze piercing through her as though he could dissect her truth from the masquerade. "It might be best if we untangle it." "Maybe I don't want to be untangled," she said, the words spilling out before checking herself. "Maybe I just want to enjoy what we have." "And lie to myself?" His voice lowered to a whisper, intense and laden with hurt. "Is that how you see me, Nova? As someone to toy with?" "I wouldn't," she stammered, horrified at the implication. I'm not playing with you. Then what are you? Caden interrupted, stepping in closer, their shared breath mingling in the charged space between them. Nova felt the world close in around them, the plush ballroom fading away to focus solely on Caden's gaze, the unyielding way he stared into her as if hoping to read the truth in her soul. What do you want from me? She finally breathed, feeling both vulnerable and emboldened in equal measure. Caden paused, his expression softening slightly. What I want is you, but this game we're playing, it's fracturing us, Nova. A tense silence enveloped them, and Nova felt her resolve start to waver, a fragile barrier ready to fall. She stepped in closer, feeling the warmth radiate from him, allowing it to dissolve the last vestiges of her doubt. Then let's stop playing, she whispered, her resolve faltering as she reached for him, the weight of their unspoken truth pressing heavily on her heart. Scene 27. Strings attached. The wind carried a chill as dusk settled like a soft blanket over the sprawling estate where old allies gathered. Caden Onyx stood at the edge of the patio, hands shoved into his dark, tailored trousers, the fabric whispering against the wooden deck beneath his feet. He surveyed the evening bustle, the clinking of crystal glasses, roars of laughter interlacing with suspicious whispers, like smoke drifting through the air. The atmosphere thrummed with unspoken tension, and he felt it knot tight in his chest. From behind, Nova LeClaire approached, her breath catching slightly as she took in the scene. Caden turned, her radiance illuminated by the golden glow of hanging lanterns, which danced timidly with the swaying branches overhead. He couldn't help but admire the way her dark floral dress caught the evening light, fabric finessed around her curves. Are we really doing this? She asked, her voice low, intended for him alone, yet echoing concern. Caden hesitated, glancing sideways at the arch of the estate. Their friends, allies from a time unmarked by secrecy and pain, milled about with exuberance that felt foreign. It's a necessary evil, Caden sighed, the weight of old debts draping over him like a shroud. We need to mend fences, Nova. After, he faltered, images of shadows and former alliances flickering through his mind. After everything, Nova finished, emotion lacing her words. Right, but not at the expense of trust. She stepped closer, the gentle aroma of jasmine trailing behind her. Her eyes searched his deep pools of a longing unfulfilled, a longing for the truth they both skirted around. Do you trust me? Caden's voice lowered, wrought with intensity. The question hung between them, heavy and potent against the backdrop of laughter and light. Trust, yes, but I also need to understand, she returned, making his heart ache with a mix of admiration and fear. I can't be a blanket for your secrets anymore. The air thickened, prickly on his skin, igniting sparks of vulnerability within him. As heat spiraled from their exchange, the first drops of rain began to patter down, gentle at first, then picking up momentum like the conversations inside. Caden's heart quickened, a rush of adrenaline mixed with a desire he could hardly articulate. We shouldn't be out here. It's getting worse. He reached for her hand instinctively, fingers brushing against hers, feeling the warmth ignite as it engulfed them both. But she stood firm. I need to know, Caden. Why are we here? What are we really facing? He stepped closer, yearning to close the distance that teetered dangerously on vulnerability. Because if we're truly going to be the people we claim to be, he hesitated, pulling a shallow breath, then I need you to understand what's at stake. I have a son. The words fell from his lips, sharp and breathless, slicing through the downpour that suddenly enveloped them. Her breath caught, but her gaze searched his, not incredulous but hungry for clarity. A son? But who? He dropped his chin, knowing the question that teetered on her lips. Celia, he finally murmured. She reached out, and there's so much at play. It's the reason I can't let this bond fracture. Each sentence was like a weight on a fragile scale, exposing his past pressed against the promise of a future. Nova's expression flickered, confusion threading through the warmth of comprehension. So that's why you've been distant? The layer of secrets. They were suddenly engulfed by chilling raindrops, drumming on the wooden patio, mirroring the tension building between them. I'm sorry, he began, but she interrupted him, stepping closer still, now mere inches apart. Stop. Nova's voice rose above the storm. You don't get to hide anymore, Caden. Just kiss me already. If we're doing this partnership, then let's commit without the ghosts. And in that moment, he knew she was right. He leaned in, the rain thickening around them, erasing the world as he caught her mouth with his, a collision of longing that sparked and ignited. The kiss felt like an unmaking of walls, each second stretching into eternity. Their lips met desperately amidst the pouring rain, losing themselves in the warmth of each other's embrace, the world around dissolving into a beautiful amalgamation of chaos and passion. As the storm raged on, a silent vow passed between them, a promise of unity against the shadows of the past. But even as they clung to one another, reality loomed just beyond the edges of intimacy, reminding them of the strings attached to every choice laid before them. Scene 28. The act revealed. Rain drummed against the grand windows of the gallery, each droplet an anxious echo that harmonized with the tense atmosphere inside. Caden Onyx leaned against the polished mahogany bar, his dark eyes flitting towards Nova as she slipped through the throngs of elegantly dressed guests. The soft light from the vintage chandeliers cast a warm glow on her face, yet her eyes sparkled with uncertainty, a storm brewing just beneath her poised facade. "I can't believe he asked you that," Caden muttered, clenching the glass in his hand as he watched her smile falter when she approached him. The glint of the bar's silverware reflected the turmoil swirling around them. Nova huffed, feigning confidence. "You'd think a gala would offer a reprieve from the drama. Instead, it's like an opera of misunderstandings." "Maybe you can play the lead role," he shot back, a teasing curve to his lips that didn't quite reach his eyes. Sisterly deception and all. Suddenly, a ripple of laughter erupted from a nearby group, cutting through their exchange. Nova's facade cracked just slightly as she glanced at the waltzing couple, her heart twisting with tension. It's not just deception, it's an identity crisis. "Still, you're doing great," he reassured her, but she caught the undercurrent of concern threading through his supportive tone. "How long before they see past the mask you're wearing?" The room felt smaller as she absorbed his words, the chatter of guests fading into the background, replaced by the roaring rain and the pulse of her trepidation. Meanwhile, wisps of secrets hung in the air, like the fleeting fragrances wafting in from the kitchen. "Look," she began, her voice lowering beneath the music. "If they find out I'm not Celeste." "Caden," a voice called, pulling his attention. It was Lena, a fellow socialite and their resident gossip force, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm despite the tension. "Have you heard? The Bradleys might be implicated in some less than savory business." Apparently, her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, "the syndicate is planning something big." "At an event like this?" "So classic," Nova cut in, her eyes narrowing on Caden, sending an unspoken message. The room was a stage, and they were all players in a dangerous farce. "Classic indeed," Caden said, crossing his arms, but a shadow darkened his demeanor. "What's your sister's role in all this?" "Celeste, she'd never be involved in anything unscrupulous," she said defiantly, yet the tremor in her voice was unmistakable. "You know her. She craves validation more than anything else." "Or a way to escape her own truth," he replied, casting his gaze out into the rain-soaked streets, his mind turning. "I worry about you playing her part. She's not the saint everyone thinks." His words encircled her like a tightening belt, squeezing her breath away. "What do you mean?" "It doesn't matter," he said tersely, redirecting his gaze to the glass in his hand as if it might hold the answers they needed. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and suddenly the lights flickered, casting the room in an erratic, pulsating glow. The energy shifted, tension palpable as guests murmured and moved closer, eyes alight with excitement and apprehension. "Let's dance," Caden said unexpectedly, breaking the tension and extending his hand toward her. The boldness of the offer caught her off guard, yet she found her fingers lacing around his. He pulled her close, their bodies swaying to the haunting melody punctuated by raindrops. "How can you talk of dancing at a time like this?" She laughed softly, her heart racing, the scent of cedar and leather enveloping her as she nestled against his chest. He was a sanctuary amidst the chaos. "Because sometimes the storm inside needs to be drowned out with something beautiful," he replied, his breath warm against her ear, igniting a spark of intimacy that both thrilled and terrified her. Their movements splintered around them, other couples dancing, arguing, and laughing, Yet Caden and Nova found privacy in the whirlwind of the evening. His fingers brushed her cheek, his gaze intense. "You have to trust me," he murmured, voice low and hypnotic. "Whatever shadows threaten to surface, we'll face them together." The storm surged outside, yet for a split second the world faded. A flicker of pain passed through her, the weight of deceit and longing. "Together," she echoed, her heart conflicted. "Together," he affirmed, inching closer, aware of the fragile thread connecting them. Their lips hovered, the tension taut as they stood amidst the chaos, the unspoken truths waiting to be unleashed like the raging storm outside. But just then, a distant shout broke through the thunder, pulling them back to reality. Nova pulled back, eyes wide. "What was that?" "Stay here," Caden commanded, breaking from their intimacy and scanning the crowd, the warmth of their moment dissipating into the cool air of uncertainty. "I can't just," she started, but he held up a hand, a protectiveness rising in him that was both alluring and unsettling. "Please, it's not just another gala anymore." With her heart racing, she knew the night was only just beginning, and the facade they wore was about to shatter under the weight of revelation and danger. Scene 29, Stolen Identities. Caden leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the tension in his posture radiating into the plush confines of the private library. Nova sat rigidly on the edge of a velvet chaise, strewn with embroidered pillows, the vivid colors mirroring the storm brewing in her chest. The air was thick with the scent of leather-bound books and rich mahogany, a deceptive calm that clashed with the turmoil of their confrontation. "What game are you playing, Nova?" Caden's voice was low, a quiet thunder that promised a tempest. His gaze bore into her, pooling suspicion and gravity as if weighing her very soul. "I'm not playing a game," Nova replied, her voice tighter than the fabric of her dress. She kept her chin high, though her heart raced, a desperate drum in the silence. "I came to the gala to protect my sister." "You know that." "Protect her?" he scoffed, disbelief dripping from his words like melting ice. "By impersonating her? What did you think this would accomplish? What happens when the truth comes out?" The hardwood floors creaked beneath him as he stepped closer, each echo magnifying the tension coiling between them. Clenching her teeth, Nova shot back. "Is that what you're worried about? The truth? Or is it the hidden layers of your own life that concern you?" She felt emboldened, sparking a thrill of defiance that flickered in her eyes, even as self-doubt gnawed at her insides. Caden paused, the air thick with unresolved history. The silence stretched, a fragile tether that both of them were reluctant to sever. It was in that charged quiet, beneath the weight of unspoken words, that their emotions unfurled: anger, pain, longing. "You think I'm hiding?" Caden finally broke the silence, his voice edged with vulnerability. "You think it's about you deceiving me? I've been battling my own shadows long before you ever stepped into this world. I was trying to protect you, Nova, from me." Her heart stuttered at the openness in his words, a sincerity wrapped in pain. In his own way, Caden had been a fortress, impenetrable and proud. Yet the fractures in his facade were evident. She could see them now. "I'm not afraid of you," she asserted, a flicker of conviction warming her demeanor. The flood of emotions threatened to overflow, but she fought to maintain her composure. "You're a master at controlling every situation, a cunning strategist. But behind that shield, I know there's something more." His eyes flashed, an almost electric tension binding them together. "That something more you think you can decipher? It could destroy you. And nobody wants that." "Aren't you tired of hiding?" she pressed, her voice rising, punctuating the distance closing in between them. "Tired of keeping everything locked away while I stand here, dressed in her skin, yearning to find out who you really are?" Caden took a step forward, the space between them charged with silence and longing. "And what if you uncover something you wish you hadn't?" His voice softened, revealing a glimpse of the vulnerability behind his stormy eyes. "I don't think we can both carry our secrets anymore without collapsing." Nova's breath quickened, the honesty of her confession landing thick in the air. "We deserve to know each other fully, an unfiltered truth." As his brow furrowed, the closeness felt electric, hotter than the sun streaming through the library's tall windows. Each word hung there, a palpable tension spiraling into an intensity neither could ignore. "Can you handle my truth?" Caden challenged, a hint of desperation threading through his tone. The walls he built around his past flickered with the threat of crumbling. "I'm standing here, aren't I?" Nova retorted, her heart racing, pulsing with fear and a reckless longing for authenticity. She looked up into his eyes, searching for the unguarded Caden she sensed beneath the layers. "I'm not going anywhere." The air shifted again, charged with the proximity that held their fates in a pendulum swing. "Then let's see what fractures when the light shines through." Caden's voice held a hint of challenge, a daring invitation that danced dangerously close to passion. "Okay." Nova inhaled sharply, the weight of both their worlds resting on her shoulders. "But we need to face everything, together." With her offer lingering in the air, they stood on the precipice, the layered worlds swirling around them, waiting for the moment when their unspoken realities would finally collide. Scene 30, beneath the surface. The grand ballroom of the Marquis Gala shimmered like a fractured mirror, a lavish display of glistening crystal chandeliers casting prisms across the finely dressed crowd. Gold and deep jewel tones wrapped every figure, each laugh and whisper a note in the symphony of elite society. But beneath the silk and satin, a more dangerous melody churned. Caden Onyx stood apart, his tall frame rigid against the backdrop of swirling skirts and polished shoes. The fragrant undertones of fresh roses mingled with the cloying scent of sweat. The air was electric, heavy with tension that coiled like a predator about to pounce. His eyes scanned the room, landing on Nova LeClaire, although he barely recognized her. The woman who had assumed the identity of her twin sister carried an aura of both allure and uncertainty that pulled him closer, yet kept him at bay. A stunning sapphire gown graced her form, capturing the light as she moved with a grace that felt almost foreign to him. He felt a pang in his chest, an odd mixture of pride and frustration. She was beautiful, undeniable. But the deeper truth, the one he had kept buried, gnawed at him. As Nova wove through the crowd, her laughter rang out, buoyed by the flirtations of a couple of admirers. The warmth of her vibrant personality filled the room, sparking smiles and igniting envy, and all the while, Caden's heart sank. He wasn't ready to share her with anyone, least of all the kind of people who could not recognize the shadows lurking behind their grails. "Can I have a moment of your time?" His voice cut through the chatter, firm yet laced with an underlying urgency. He ensnared her arm gently, drawing her away from the throng and into a secluded alcove where the pulse of the gala faded into a dull thrum. "Why are you being so intense?" Nova asked, half teasing, half serious. Her brow arched as she folded her arms, but he could see a flicker of concern dancing behind her gaze. "Intense?" he echoed, stepping closer, quiet fury simmering within him. "You're dancing on the edge of a cliff, Nova. This isn't a game. You're playing with things you can't even begin to understand." Her smile faltered for a moment. "And you think the answer is to keep me in the dark? Should I feel grateful for your protection? Get ready to shield me from harm?" Caden's jaw clenched. "It's not that simple. You want to be celebrated, but there's so much more at stake here. You can't understand the risks we're facing." "Oh, I can't understand? Maybe you think I can't handle it because you think I'm just another pretty face," she snapped, the bite in her tone revealing the ire that matched his own. "You see me as weak. Is that what this is?" Caden almost laughed bitterly, the pain of it stinging fresh. "I've bared my soul. I've kept my secrets in the dark to protect you, yet here we are." "Protect me?" The heat of her anger dissipated, replaced with an unexpected tremor of vulnerability that left her voice softer. "Or protect yourself from the truth?" Caden stepped back, the air between them taut. "You don't see how deep this goes. I have." He drew in a breath, forcing words past the turbulence of his thoughts. "I have a child. I've hidden him away, Nova." Silence swallowed the space, the gentle clinking of glasses beyond them ceasing to exist. Her eyes widened, suspending disbelief and curiosity in equal measure. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "You needed to know, but I never wanted to put that weight on you," he said, sorrow curling around the edges of his voice. "He is a part of my past I can't erase or run from. Just because you've kept him hidden doesn't mean I can't choose to stand by you," she whispered, her gaze softening with understanding. "I want to be there for you, Caden." The sincerity hung palpably as Caden's heart thudded loudly in contrast to the soft tick of the clock that filled the silence. Their unresolved feelings surged, the air thickening between them as the chaos of the gala faded away. He brought his hands up to her face, brushing away an imaginary speck of dust, marveling at the warmth of her skin against his fingertips. "Then let's not keep secrets either," he said, his breath quickening. The laughter and music faded, leaving only them, standing on the edge of vulnerability. "Together?" she asked, searching his eyes, an unspoken promise hanging in the space between them. "Together," Caden affirmed, his voice low and earnest, realizing that amidst all the lies and deception, the truth between them was the only thing that felt real. Scene 31, Hidden Bridges. Caden stood at the edge of the sprawling garden, the whispering leaves engaging in a hushed dialogue, intertwining with the gentle breeze. He could feel the weight of his decisions pressing down on him, but the air was warm, a lingering reminder of summer, a fragile echo of freedom. He inhaled deeply, letting the scents of blooming jasmine and freshly manicured grass fill his lungs, hoping to push out the shadows of anxiety that dogged him. "You're too quiet," Nova said, stepping beside him, her lips curved in a teasing smile. The softness of her voice shattered the silence like glass, drawing his gaze toward those striking emerald eyes that sparkled not just with mischief, but with an understanding that disarmed him. In this moment, she was a bridge, reaching out across the chasm of his inner turmoil. "Just lost in thought," he replied, his tone casual, but the weight hung heavy in the air between them. "Care to share? Or should I guess?" Nova leaned against the marble balustrade, the sun catching the braided crown of her dark hair, which danced gently in the breeze. The way the strands reflected the light, as if each was woven with gold, highlighted her vivacious spirit. Caden hesitated. Silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the distant laughter of gala guests. Each chuckle felt like a world away, their problems distant echoes compared to the tempest swirling within him. He could almost taste the fear of exposure in the air, bittersweet like dark chocolate. "Let me take a wild guess," she began, her playful tone sharpening. "It's about family, yours or mine." "You don't have to," he began, cutting himself off as he watched her dance around his defenses, feigning defiance, but with a glimmer of earnest inquiry in her gaze. "Do you remember that summer?" Nova suddenly asked, her voice softening, breaking through the surface tension. "The one we spent in the countryside? Your mother insisted we help with those dreadful garden flowers." Caden chuckled despite himself, the sound rumbling deep in his chest. "Dreadful is putting it lightly. I think I'm still allergic to daisies." "More like traumatized," she teased, her smile widening, her laughter wrapping around him like a warm embrace. "But you know what? We didn't just plant flowers. We planted stories, secrets." Silence fell again, deeper this time, layered with unspoken fears and buried truths. The corners of his mouth twitched downward as he remembered. "I buried one, didn't I? A secret I still can't mention." His voice dropped to a whisper against the vibrant backdrop, feeling her watchful gaze meditate on every syllable. "We all have secrets, Caden," she murmured, stepping closer, the heady scent of her perfume, a blend of citrus and soft musk invading his senses. Intimacy crackled in the air between them, palpable yet elusive, as they swayed on the edge of something poignant. He turned to her, the frustration of not being able to confide his turmoil contorting his brow. "You make it sound easy, but when it comes to my family, your family needs you," she urged gently. "You can't hide forever. Not from them, not from yourself." Caden's heart raced, the distance between them now a mere breath. "And what if I hurt them?" he breathed, a confession wrapped within the words. "Maybe you'll hurt them more if you don't." She reached for his hand, their fingers brushing tentatively, sending sparks of electricity racing up his arm. "You're not alone in this. You can bridge that gap." The sincerity in her gaze made his resolve falter. The urgency of their connection ignited a soft glow within him, a yearning for redemption. Her thumb idly traced his knuckles, sending waves of warmth through him. He could feel the intensity of the moment pulling him closer to her. Suddenly, the laughter from the gala turned raucous, intruding upon their bubbling intensity, and Caden pulled back slightly, aching to reclaim the moment. "What if I'm not the man you think I am?" he voiced low with simmering vulnerability. Then show me the man you are, she insisted, drawing nearer, as if intertwining their fates with the sheer force of her will. What are you so afraid of? Caden's gaze locked onto hers, a mixture of longing and dread, swirling like a tempest within. I'm terrified of losing everything, he admitted, swallowing hard. A hushed moment lingered as the world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them standing on the brink of revelation and connection. In that suspended space, where whispers of hope mingled with the lingering scent of summer blossoms, Nova leaned in, her breath tantalizingly close. Then, let's take that step together, she said softly, a firm promise in her words, as he boldly withdrew closer, the opportunities unfurling before them like the petals of the flowers they had once planted together. Scene 32. The Risk of Love. The soft clink of champagne flutes echoed through the opulent ballroom, where the flickering candlelight cast playful shadows on the intricately embossed wallpaper. Caden Onyx leaned against the polished mahogany bar, a solid presence amid the swirl of silk-clad guests. His gaze drifted over the crowd, landing on Nova Leclerc as she stepped into the room, her head held high but her eyes betraying a flicker of uncertainty. Do you ever wonder what we're really celebrating here? Caden asked, his voice low enough to cut through the ambient chatter without being noticed. Nova turned, her brow furrowing as she accepted the glass he offered.